Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the RENNSPORT Community League here today from Hockenheim, and today with round 2 of Season 8. Last time couldn't quite see what happens, but it seemed to have been a very interesting race nonetheless, and today at Hockenheim seems to be even more competitive. Today I'm bringing you to action together with Tim Island in the commentary booth. Hello, Tim.
Hey, Lino. How are you doing? How was everyone in Twitch today? I hope you've had a fun day. It's been very rainy in the UK.
It's really not, is it?
It's less rainy than people think, but it has been very rainy this week.
Well, whatever the case, today we have a sunny day at Hockenheim, and I'd say we jump right into qualifying, because qualifying is on the way at this very moment. One of the new Porsche liveries here, driven by Ali Zahir. Going from last week's result with a bit of a surprise winner, we will go into that in just a moment's time. We have a few new things in the format compared to the last seasons. What do you expect here today from Hockenheim, seeing how the last Hockenheim race was, where the raid was with this man in the very center of it?
Yeah, Hockenheim always seems to give a fairly decent GT3 race, and we've got a pretty quality field here with people fairly closely ranked together, so we should be in for some good wheel-to-wheel racing. We've got a good mix of GT3s as well, which is always adds a little bit of spice, because they will be better in different parts of the track. So I'm sure people will have advantages at certain parts over others, and the overtaking opportunities should come fairly quickly.
Yeah, I mean, for those who haven't seen the last race here at Hockenheim, it's been basically a three-way dogfight for the victory between Tim Schroeder, Ali Zahir, and Dominik Lala in this Porsche. Tim Schroeder not here today, Ali Zahir in a very different car to last time. Well, not very different, but indeed different. Going for the all-new Mustang, with also the all-new Heritage livery. I think it's a very beautiful car, isn't it?
It's my favourite of the Mustang liveries. I really like that one. So it was odd to see Ali driving a Mustang, but great to see him driving that particular Mustang.
Going into the Motodrome, 2 green sectors. Let's see what he can do through the twisty section. The Mustang, of course, very powerful, but maybe a bit sluggish through turns at times. BOP is certainly helping that car a tiny bit, but yeah, I mean, Ali Zahir has shown what he can do with any type of equipment, essentially, coming out of the final turn. 53.2 currently on the board. Can he improve? It's a 38.6, that 53.2, of course, out of the pit lane. And going pole, and Robin Blanco, one of the new drivers, currently in P2. Yeah,
always great to see some of the console guys mixing it up. They've had some pretty decent ratings from the console guys, so it's great to see him getting involved in some of the community races, some of the bit of the longer ones, and managing to hang with the fairly regular guys we have had on PC.
And also adding to the regular people are some people, you may notice the livery. Coming from the esports side of things, David Sobera with the purple Sector 1 in his Williams AMG. Now going through the Mercedes arena, exiting into the Sector 2 lane. You can see maximizing all the curb there on the left-hand side, getting as close to the wall as possible. Certainly a contender for the win here today, isn't he?
Yeah, he's been pretty active in the public races, and he's trying to get up to the top of the rankings. So yeah, he's definitely one to watch as far as the win's concerned. But I'm sure he might not have it all his own way, and we'll definitely have some great action behind him if not.
Comes across line and does take pole with 37.3. I know he can go a bit quicker. I did a race with him, I think, yesterday here on Hockenheim, and certainly get me a bit more than that. Kimi Hapler, though, holding strong in second place in the brand new 911 Evo. Currently, I think, tailgating. Not sure who that silver Porsche belongs to. But, yeah, coming through the third sector, no improvements on this lap. Trying to get a bit of the distance to the cars in front. But, yeah, of course, that's one of the big differences, isn't it, this season? As we see Hermann in the other beautiful Mustang livery, the pre-order one. That all cars are on track at the same time.
Yeah, we've gone back to more of a traditional qualifying format rather than our everyone has their own open track to deal with. So yeah, there's a little bit more thinking involved, trying to find some space, get some clean air, and make a lap. Maybe get a bit of a draft off someone if you can do. But yeah, it makes it a bit more interesting, a bit more frantic as people try to find a bit of space and get their laps in. And maybe raises a few blood pressures if you're on a good lap and someone suddenly appears in front of you.
Very, very good points to make. This is our current championship leader, Mark Heath, driving for RRT this season. Won with the McLaren at Spa last time out. This time in the AMG here at Hockenheim. I think it's also the car he drove last time in Season 7. Currently P5 in this qualifying session, so no points for him here. The top 3 are getting 3, 2 and 1 points respectively, as Philip Russler just ran second. So yeah, new guys definitely mixing it up, and 38.2, that is a very strong lap time.
Yeah, we've got a few PlayStation drivers in the top few positions right now. Not so many of the Xbox guys. They maybe need to pull their socks up and see what they can make of it. But we've got a few PlayStations up there.
Yeah, I'm really much looking forward to how this will develop over time. I think having the crossplay element in there, and you can also see by the country flags, we have a Portuguese driver, a German driver, a Swedish driver, a Lebanese driver, an American driver, and an Austrian driver, all within the top 7. It's sure great to see the variety on console, where people are coming from. Also, in the choice of cars, I think we have a good selection here today. I think only one car is missing, and that being the Audi.
Sad times. No Audi drivers. Come on. Where are you? But yeah, Sobrero kind of leading the charge pretty pretty massively at the minute, 0.8 of a second ahead of Russler. But then it's pretty close from Russler back to I'd say Mark Heath. There's only a second between the next 5 drivers, so that there's some pretty close gaps, and I'm sure they'll be having some great racing on track.
Yeah, the gaps are really close.
Carry on.
I think we are going for the same sentiment, Audi. Cesco Morea and that silver Porsche to clear that up, by the way. But, I mean, we have, as far as I can see, 3 drivers in the 38s. Of course, David in the 37 range, but then we have a range of 39 times and a huge amount of 40 and 41 times, especially within the 39 and 41 range. Many drivers close together. Could be very interesting, especially at Hockenheim, where the draft is very interesting to look at.
Yeah, there's a definite kind of bell curve to the times today, possibly with Sobrero pushing it a bit out, with him being, like you said, an esports driver. But yeah, the mid pack is very tightly packed together. So normally where we have the most drama, and I don't think today is going to be too different.
Very much so. Indeed, Kimi Hapler now being a bit stuck behind Cesco Morea and calling it quits essentially after this lap. The drivers are able to complete the lap, so we have a few seconds left on the clock, but they should still be able to come across the line and set their bench times. Alizaya...
You're getting a little bit sideways there, which is something we're getting used to from Alizar here, I think. He just seems to be expanding his sideways car repertoire.
Very much so indeed. Enrico Schwigo Bräuninger, the man who held the longest name in all of RENNSPORT for some time, also went up to 5th position with his last lap, so he is up into the fight. You know that he kind of struggled, that he couldn't really adapt to the new setups on the cars, but in the BMW he seems to feel quite at home. Top 3 currently AMG, BMW, and then a Ford Mustang, and a Porsche 911 Evo just behind that.
Yeah, then we've got almost an exact copy, because it goes BMW, Ford, Porsche, then AMG. But yeah, those 4 seem to be ruling the roost as far as pace is concerned right now.
Dominic Lala has finished his lap time, no improvement. Mark Heworth, 3,000 behind him, won't improve on this lap as far as I can see. Same goes for Herman, who is a bit down in the first 2 sectors on his personal best. Yellow indicating that there has been no improvement to the personal best lap time. There's also some damage on the rear left of this car, which probably won't really help the situation.
Oh yeah.
David Thoreau seems to be the strongest in Sector 2, interestingly enough. You can see a bigger gap forming there, 9/10 to Rustler in P2. So a couple more cars coming through the final sector.
Severo's Sector 2 is a 46.6. Ali Zahir does a 46.9 in that sector, so that's where he managed. Well, he picks up the most time on Rustler. And his Sector 1 and 3, tiny bit slower. That's where the lap difference comes from. But yeah, Zahir definitely picks up a lot in Sector 2.
Just trying to see if anybody's still out there doing a lap time, but it doesn't seem quite the case. There's one of the new AMR liveries, which I find to be very cool looking. I mean, it kind of resembles a lot of colors that I use. But yeah, I think we can call this session done. Seems to be no further improvement on the way. David Sobero taking pole and taking 3 points for it. That's a good start to the race for him, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. It's always good to get 3 points in the bag and get it done with. You don't have to worry about it anymore.
So those are the points as they stand before the session. They actually haven't changed on the top 12. And yeah, what we've said, Mark Heworth leading in front of Luciano Caso, who isn't here, and Tim Schroeder, who also isn't here. So good chance for Mark Heworth to build a bit of a lead in the championship. Dominic Ladler, though, he will be eager to get some points back. He is a 5-time RCL champion after all. And after that, it's pretty much still a free-for-all. Let's take also a look at the P12 or P13 to P24 drivers. Cesco Munera, one of the drivers you find there, who is here today. Marcel Vollbracht as well. So lots of chances for the drivers as they get onto the grid. And yeah, I'm really much looking forward to the fight for the podium in this race.
Yeah, it's all things considered, I don't think I'm insulting anyone by saying so, but you're going to expect Sabreria to win. But it very much is by how much and who comes second and third, I think.
It really much is the case. The cars are rolling now. So we have a rolling start here yet again. May this be an advantage to one of the R1 practice drivers. May this be an advantage to the community drivers who's done it before. We will see
That's true.
in a moment.
rolling starts aren't a thing we've been doing a lot of on the public races, so this could be a first time for a few people.
Get the look back from David Sobrero's car as we get onto the start-finish straight. And we go racing here at Hockenheim. It's round 2 of Season 8 in the RENNSPORT Community League. A good getaway for both Sobrero and Rosler Aliza and Kimi Harpler behind, side by side as the cars fly across the curb on the inside. In that high-speed turn 1, Dominik Lala, I think, lost a position to Handrich in front. So we still go side by side between Aliza and Kimi Harpler in front. Oh, and very loose there on the rear, the Porsche of Dominik Ladler. Does this maybe allow Mark Hewitt to close in? No, Mark Hewitt with a bit of a gap and Michael Herrmann to worry about. It's now diving towards the outside line. Further up, Kimi Harpler again trying it on the inside of Aliza, who has no chance to really go with the acceleration of the Porsche. And also side by side Herrmann and Hewitt.
Yeah, it was pretty packed there, but seemed to stay fairly clean, so that's always a good start to a race. The hairpin can be a bit of a clenching moment, but they all seem to have got there through there pretty clean.
Hewitt was also able to keep P8 from Michael Herrmann. With that Mustang looking very mean indeed. Kimi Harpler trying to put some pressure on Philip Rosler.
Yeah, I think Kimi's eager to test his mettle against the esports driver. I know they've been driving in a few races together, so he's definitely knows what he's up against, and he doesn't want to give him an inch here, does he?
David Sorrell out front, not really bothered by all of this. It's now 45 minutes of hot lapping, but won't be that easy, I think. And Alizai also not done with Enrico Bräuninger. He was slipped by on that first lap. Now in the slipstream, both cars very strong in the straight line. That's something the community has already found out. Going to the inside line, going into the Parabolica, braking a bit later than the BMW. Can he get it stopped in time? Beautiful switchback there by Enrico Bräuninger, who is back on the inside of Ali Zahir.
Yeah, he seems to have gelled with that BMW pretty well since he started using it, still side by side. I think Ali finally giving up the position.
Not quite. He's still sideways, but now has to slot in behind that BMW. And not quite, he's still alongside, but since he was off track, he's decided to take the position, or not take the position. Handrich and Ladler, though, behind. Also Mark Hewitt, to a certain extent, are flying in fast. But what a defense here by Enrico Bräuninger. These two having a lot of experience together. They know each other in and out, basically. And both in different cars.
The Bräuninger-Zahir, Hendrik, Ladler, Kirith train is pretty close together. So there's going to be a lot of fighting to come before that's sorted out, that's for sure. But it's letting Kimi and Rosler kind of just creep the gap a little bit further each lap as they don't have to fight so much.
We have one DNF, unfortunately. That is by Sebastian Oswald. Dominik Lala trying it on the inside of Malte Bryan here, going into the hairpin Porsche. And Porsche has to stop for Alizaya because he's tried to make a move. But seems like Dominik Lala was able to still accelerate good enough. And we have one very strong AMG that should be Marcel Vollbracht we are seeing there. Trying to crawl back, and big dive here by Handrich on the inside. Bit of contact. Nearly losing the rear end as well and emerging back behind the DreamHack Porsche.
Yeah, Volbart, unfortunately, I think he got into some contacts or had a bit of a brief meeting with the wall, and his car is crabbing something pretty scary. So he's keeping well out of the way. He's getting off track where he can, letting people through.
Akiv had a bit of an excursion into the gravel right there. Just lost a little bit of time, nothing more. David Sorrell 3 seconds ahead of Rustler, but his gap to Kimi Harpla is also fairly consistent with about 1.3 seconds between the two cars.
Yeah, the last lap round, Rustler was about 0.4 seconds faster than Harpla, but the gap does seem to be keeping fairly consistent now. I think Kimi's found a little bit of pace.
I think this time Enrico was also able to build a bit of a gap to Alizai to not be under threat from Slipstream. But behind this train, yeah, Marquez at the back of it, a bit of a distance to Robin Blanco behind, not too much that he can still get into the fight, especially when these three start fighting again, which they really much look like doing at the moment, as Hewitt is again getting very loose there on the curbs. But then quite a big gap to Carsten Hermann in P10.
Yeah, he's having a bit of a fight with Chestu Monera, probably not helping his pace too much if those two are fighting. But they've got a bit of space between Monera and TP Racing, so you might as well have some fun with it.
J Viper, bit of damage to the front of the car, but trying to hunt down TP Racing, that is 4P12. Remember, every position in this race is worth points. So of course you want to move up. Chesco trying to put pressure on said Carsten Hermann K, which could also free him up a bit to at least close in the gap. We know that Chesco can have a lot of pace if it's his day, essentially. So far it seems to be going quite right for him.
One thing maybe of note is that Enrico Breuninger is lapping a tenth faster, fairly consistently, than Kimi Harpla now. He's got some free space. Still 2 seconds behind, but it's not out of the realms of possibility that he can catch up.
Michael Hermann on the back of Andreas Bornemann. I think he went to the pits to do some repairs with his Mustang. Now trying to drive back up the field, getting a much better exit out of turns 3 and 4 compared to the Aston Martin. You can see there's a gamepad driver going on. And I think that's one of the coolest things, that you can basically drive alongside whatever hardware you are on, but tries to brake a bit later than the Mustang. Can Hermann use that to his advantage? Not quite yet.
It's still kind of side by side though. That's going to push the Aston a bit wide, which gives him the inside line into the next corner. The Mustang cuts it very tight though, nicely alongside again.
Uses the momentum around the outside to move up into P14. So a bit of a recovery drive here for Bornemann. Switch back to the front. As you said, Enrico Breuninger again, another 10th taken out of Kimi Harpla's lead. Dominik Lala not really able to get away from Handrich. But also he was not really able to get close to Handrich, so the RRT sandwich not really closing in from either side. It's also interesting that we have two drivers sandwiched between RRT drivers, and they're all different drivers.
Breuninger just setting his fastest lap of the race, doing a 38 dead. Kimi Harpla's last lap, also his fastest lap of the race, doing a 38.2. To carry on the fastest lap train, David Sobreo actually didn't quite make his fastest lap by 0.02 of a second, but he did a 37.2, showing off his pace a little bit there.
Checking in on the lead of the race as he finishes yet another lap. I think he is one of the only few platinum drivers, so people are getting their ranks up. And he tries to be at the full front of that, of course.
I looked yesterday, I think it was, and there were like 5 or 6 of them. Not many, like you said, but he's definitely getting up there with old cast favourite Nico Nunninghoff also doing a pretty good job, I think, of being in number 1 place as far as ranks concerned, if he still is.
Very much so indeed. Cheskamuna is still trying to get past Carsten Hermann, so struggling a bit to get close enough to that Aston to make a move. And it also seems like Dominik Lalla is closing in on Ali Zai. The gap has come down to 1.1 seconds. You can see the Mustang up front.
Zahir's last lap, 39 dead. Dominik Ladler 38.7. So he did do took 3/10 out of him, and he's definitely catching back up into the slipstream zone.
Two heavily different cars, the Porsche and the Mustang. Also seeing that 2023 on the DreamHack livery. It's crazy that this is such a long time ago at this point. Nearly 2 years, 3 years actually, I think. Going into 2026 very soon. And Maki with only 3/10 away from Hundrich now. Closest he's been in a while. Faking to the inside, trying to go the long way around the outside, switch back. Now trying to get the momentum onto Parabolica, very, very important. Goes right into the curbing, but it seems like he still has momentum going for him. And it's a drag race down into the Parabolica. Little bit of contact there.
Oh, got a bit messy.
And still side by side, now drag racing towards the Mercedes arena. Again, a bit of contact.
Yeah, the Porsche kind of giving away the place in the right-hander there, but then screaming into the corner. Obviously, we all know that Porsches have pretty decent corner speed.
And again, diving to the inside.
AMG.
These two are definitely fighting with their gloves off, now going into the Motodrome. They've switched places 2 times across 1 lap. And back out front and scrambling over the curbs is Marquis with. Basically finding himself in the same position he was just 3.7 kilometers before. But really pushing that
wide there.
Look how much time that cost them to Dominik Lalla. 4.3 seconds now the gap.
Yeah, both of them with the last lap with the racing, wheel-to-wheel racing, they did 41s, whereas Ladler staying in the 38s, so really stretching that gap out while these two have a bit of fun.
Not sure if it was wheel-to-wheel, it was more like body-to-body, but yeah, they really preferred the battle in this case. Again, diving to the inside is Mark Heworth. Can he get the car stopped in time? Yes, he can, but now the traction of the Porsche Hundrich using all the traction. Now this time the other way around. They're giving each other like half a centimeter of space. And again, Mark Heworth being the one who's, yeah, ending up behind.
Yeah, he came out of that one a little bit worse. I think he had a bit of trouble getting the traction down, whereas the Porsche just seems to have all the traction in the world.
When Blanco's dropping down the timing sheet a bit. to Francesco Monuera. Let's have a quick look to the car. Yeah, there's some damage on the front left, so maybe a mistake done in Mercedes Arena. Is he going for a move into turn 1?
It's a brave move if he's going for it.
Oh, and he tried to, but it's not a space where you typically do a move. And yeah, I think about to be expected that Hundrich is trying to turn in at some point. Maybe a bit much there for Mark.
Mark definitely coming out worse as far as the spin was concerned there, just facing completely the wrong direction. But that has left them both well behind Dominic Ladler, 12 seconds now.
And let's not forget, this is our championship leader at the moment, and very likely won't be after this race. We can make some positions up. Francesco Monuera now also getting a bit closer to the AMG. Not quite close enough yet to make a move. I think that will be a bit of an ongoing story in this race. But I may be a bit optimistic. In turn 1, not necessarily a place where you do overtake for this very reason.
Yeah, if you get squeezed on the inside, you end up hitting that massive curb. And then if you don't, everyone ends up flying really wide. So it's an interesting choice for an overtaking move.
But they got very lucky. None of them went into the barrier. Heinrich even kept his position. I mean, sure, he's 12.8 seconds behind Dominic Ladler. I'm very optimistic that this gap won't be closed up unless something big happens. But yeah, he still has 3 seconds to this man, to Carsten Herrmann, who's in P8. It's also a very good debut here for him. But yeah, he didn't really find any other way around him, did he? Tried for so many laps.
No, I think he tried pretty much every corner, so he thought I might as well try T1 as well, but maybe a little bit too far, I don't know.
Enrico Boninger within a second now of Kimi Hapler, and soon the slipstream will also kick into effect. One thing he notified me before the stream is that he has already eaten nuggets this week. Bit of an insider within the community, but yeah, I mean, he has won last week at the Nordschleife with this car. He has won an RCL race before. He sure knows how to get the most out of the car, and he's looking for a podium here at the cost of Kimi Hapala. Isn't it kind of ironic that Kimi Hapler usually is a BMW fanatic and now being hunted down by BMW?
Yeah, he's normally very much a BMW fan on the Discord, but he opts to drive for the Porsche and facing his own favourite brand. So that is a bit ironic, you are right.
Tony Thomas trying to close in on Andreas Bornemann. Hermann also trying to make some progress to Jay Viper. So these two on a recovery mission both really fell down the order, as Jay Viper has now DNF'd from this session, unfortunately. Maybe that was a bit of commentators cursing going on right there.
Mark Hereth got past TP Racing, so he's looking up the track towards Robin Blanco now, 3 seconds gap. He's got the pace on him, so you will catch him, I think, before the end of the race, that's for sure.
I think the interesting bit is also that we have some traffic coming up in front of Philipp Russler, the AMG of Marcel Vollbracht. He's getting out of the way very nicely here, not trying to interrupt any fighting.
Yeah, Marcel seems pretty good at giving people the right of way with traffic. Like from his earlier crash, he was being very gracious and moving right out the way there. So good to see it continue. And good awareness from him.
Oh, and Luke running up very harshly across the curb on the inside there. You or most curbs at Hockenheim, when you approach them from the back side with grass, it's a very steep incline and throws the car around, because there's also always a risk to damage the suspension and tires. So kind of lucky to get away with that one. And now onto the Parabolica with only 6/10 of a gap to Kimi Harpler. Do you think that's enough to at least show himself?
I think so. If he can get a draft, might not get enough, quite get enough draft, if I can finish a sentence before the end of this straight.
You can see how strong the Porsche is out of the hairpin.
That's definitely given something for Kimi to worry about coming up into the arena section, though.
You can see the delta really coming down through the twistier section, through the Mercedes arena, the Motordrome. But the crucial sections, of course, are the acceleration zones out of turn 2 and the Parabolica for overtaking here at Hockenheim, which is something that, unfortunately for Enrico Bräuninger, the Porsche is very good at.
Yeah, that is very true. And I've never noticed before until you've started using the bonnet cam of this BMW, but the little white splashes do look a bit like bird poop.
Now you've ruined the visuals for everybody. Bit further away this time around.
Yeah, he seems to be able to catch up with Kimi, but staying in the kind of slipstream zone, racing right up behind him, he seems to be struggling a little bit more with that.
Mark Heath, in the meantime, is climbing up the order. He's up into P11, is now behind Robin Blanco, who's running P10, was running P8 for a lot of time. So we'll try to get around him fairly quickly. I'm also seeing some questions in chat. I'm afraid we can't answer them on stream right now because we have a lot of racing action to cover. But feel free to join the Discord and ask over there. There are a lot of people who are or always willing to help out. So I can always suggest, if you have any questions, as Mark Heath is going around the outside of the BMWs, misbreaking or nearly making contact there with the AMG, just diving out of the way in the last possible moment. But if you have any questions, feel free to join the Discord and ask over there. Some very lovely folks, and also more info on different leagues going on, because of course the RENNSPORT community and Nordschleife leagues are not the only ones taking place here on RENNSPORT.
No, we've got quite an uptick of user-created leagues over the last couple of weeks, and so we've got some races going pretty much every day, I think, as far as league racing is concerned.
Yeah, very much so. So pretty much for every day and every region there's something to race in. And as you can see in the leaderboard right here, we have people over from America in, and they race with us Europeans just fine, which is very, very nice to see. Mike Hammond, meanwhile, up to P12 as well. So good recovery effort for him so far. It also looks like Ali Zai is struggling a bit to keep Dominik Ladler in check, because the Porsche seems to be getting some pace now.
Yeah, the last few laps they've been about a 10th in it as far as the lap times is concerned. Dominik Ladler usually coming out the better, so the gap is very slowly closing. A couple more laps and I think he'll really start hitting that drafting sweet spot, and the gap will close up a little bit quicker.
Tony Thomas on the back of Andreas Bornemann now. The two British cars. Aston Martin and McLaren.
I think, is Tony Thomas the only McLaren we have in the race today?
I think
I
so.
think he is, isn't he? We've been, it was fairly dominant early on, and we've been doing some bot work on it, and it's a bit more competitive now, but it seems to have been a bit abandoned by everybody.
Well, it's still very strong, I can tell you. I've been driving some races, and these McLarens can still be very hard to overtake at times. Trying to go up and under below Bornemann, and there is some contact. I think Bornemann turned in on Tony Thomas, got the worst for it, and David
It looked
Subriel
like it from here.
in the middle of it now. It's not really the sight you want to see as the driver lapping the others.
No, you'd rather they were nicely spaced out and just driving around, not battling each other.
16 seconds the gap between David Subriel and Philip Ross. But, I mean, of course, not to take away from Subriel, but he is an esports level driver. Tony Thomas is getting nicely out of the way here for the AMG driver. And I want to give huge credit here to Philip Rossler because he's still having 2.7 seconds over Kimi Hapler and Enrico Bräuninger. I think it's his first race in RCL. Yes, it is. He didn't drive at Spa last time around. Huge effort here by the German.
Yeah, his last lap around was his lap time dropped off a bit. He did a 38.6 this time through. We did a 38 dead, so found a little bit more pace, and that did let Kimi close up a little bit, but it seems like Philip Russler's had a bit of a word with himself and he's got back on pace.
Enrico Bräuninger 5/10 behind Kimi Hapler as we go onto the Parabolica again. He still has 18 minutes, and we've seen before, if you don't take your time, you may lose more than you gain. But yeah, Enrico Bräuninger will be well aware of that. He doesn't really have any pressure from behind. Alisa is 7 seconds behind, and he will have to worry about Dominik Ladler if that continues. He's just...
I would have thought the only thing that will be keeping them possibly at bay right now is the fact that Russler is still in sight, and what they don't want to do is have a fight and completely lose contention with him. But yeah, Enrico's going to have to make a move at some point.
And they're both very well aware of that, I can tell you. Both are super experienced in that kind of thing. They've seen it in races before, they've done it in races before. I think for Enrico Bräuninger, one of the best used cases of that was when he won that RCL race in Spa, where at some point he was able to drop Julian Chicot, who was then struggling to fend off against Dominik Ladler, and I'm not sure who else it was, as we have a bit of a fight going on for P8, as Česká was able to get past Carsten Herrmann, and now Mark Heath is trying to go around the outside. Wasn't seen by the Aston Martin, and huge impact for Herrmann there, as Mark Hewitt is continuing.
That was a big crash.
I think that one is very tricky to really untangle, because the Aston Martin, of course, lost a lot of momentum after being passed by Česká, so Mark Hewitt went around the outside, the AMG very strong in that outside line. And yeah, Carsten Herrmann just drifting very, very wide, and then front right hitting front rear left. That's pretty much a car into the wall guaranteed. Seems to still be going. Lots of damage to the rear left, but with 16 minutes left on the clock, it's always a big question whether you want to repair it or not.
Yeah, as long as you're driving fairly straight, I think is the main thing. And as long as your downforce isn't too wrecked. It's going to hurt you at top speed, but probably a lot less than going into the pits will do.
So one thing that's, of course, very different to the last time we went to Hockenheim, we've been talking about it earlier in the stream. Last time we had that very, very close fight up front for the lead of the race. I think this time it's a lot more spread out across the field. We have some bigger gaps, of course, due to the fights between Hewitt and Hundrich for once, because of the pit stops from some drivers. But apart from that, everybody's still got somebody in his sight. Dominik Lala is 6/10 behind Ali Zahir. We have 3 cars within, or 4 cars within 10 seconds from P10 to P13. Of course, he was now also trying to get past Cesco Munir, so lots of action still going on.
Yeah, last lap round, Dominik Ladler did his fastest lap of the race, but then Ali Zahir also did his fastest lap of the race, doing a 38.5 and a 38.3. Ladler taking another couple of tenths out of Ali Zahir. So he's... Carry on.
Again into turn 1, but this time making it a bit easier on the outside. Cesco Munir not really defending it. Cesco, one of the drivers who's always driving very smart, knowing who to fight with.
Yeah, he's been around here quite a while as well, and I think he knows who he's got pace on and who he hasn't, and it's just quicker and easier to let people through rather than try to block the 14 minutes remaining of the race.
Dominik Lala now super close behind Ali Zahir. It's very interesting to see where the Porsche really is better on acceleration compared to the Mustang, but also the Mustang on the straight, and also through the longer sweeping turns seems to be a bit stronger than the rear-engined, rear-wheel drive Porsche.
That's true. It definitely has its advantages. Mustang being a bit more of a newer car, so people haven't quite got it dialed in as much as they have with the old Porsche. Old 992.
Enrico Boninger has lost a bit of time to Kimi Apla. That gap has grown to about a second again. But
yeah, Kimi, last lap around, Kimi did his fastest lap of the race with 13 minutes to go, which is pretty nice. A 38.1. Last lap round, a 38.2.
These two are also approaching, I think that was Andreas Bornemann in the Aston Martin. So that will be definitely very interesting. But Dominik Lala very close now to the rear end, going into the Mercedes arena. Really go for a bit of a dive? No, he does not yet.
Takes a lot of a tighter line than the Mustang there, though. Having to use less of the track to kind of maintain the speed.
Both going for the low line here at the second hairpin in the Motordrome. Oh, nearly kicking the back out there over the curb.
Really not where you want to be trying to overtake a lapped car as they come through turn 1. So let's hope the Aston Martin gets out of the way.
What I saw on your screen, what we couldn't see on stream, as there is contact, was that both are very, very aggressive on the flashers, of course. Now Dominik Lala in the slipstream, 3/10. That is a range where he can start to attack. Porsche will be better on the brakes going into the hairpin. Decides not to go for it. Gets a bump from the Aston Martin though. That's really not what you want to do as a car lap down. Luckily
No,
it was just a bit of contact and not anything major, so fight still continues between the two of them. 1.8 seconds by the way between Kimi Harpla and Enrico Breuninger.
Yeah, Kimi's really been putting the hammer down. The last lap, Enrico Breuninger's was not good. I'm assuming he didn't have a great way through traffic, and Kimi got a bit of an easier time of it. So he's really opened that gap up.
Cesco Munir will be soon visited by Michael Herrmann, who's trying to go up into P9. Further points for the American if he can succeed with that. The BMW of Ron Blanco in the background is going very wide off the track. And Chescomune not really defending this one, as said. Knows how to pick it. Can't even talk anymore. Pick his fights. So as it stands right now... Oh, and we also see some damage on the front right turn. Rico's car light's not functioning anymore. But as it stands, it would be 31 points for David Sobrero, 26 for Philip Russler, 21 for Kimi Harpala. And these are all drivers who haven't scored or not participated in the first race. Current championship leader as it stands, if I see this right, is Dominic Lala on 34 points. But he for sure will try to get up into the top 5 here by the Mustang of Alizai.
9 minutes of the race left, just over, so he's got a few laps left to really do it. He's got to pull back up a little bit, so Alizai here catch up after the bit of the incident with the lapped cars. But then he's got a little bit of time to collect his thoughts and decide where he's going to try and make some moves.
Tires, of course, will also start to fall away a bit, depending on how he treated them. We know that Dominic Lala typically is a driver who really takes good care of his tires. It's a very unknown thing for the Mustang, so maybe there's some new findings for Alizai. TP Racing is now trying his luck to get by Robin Blanco.
I think Kimi Harpo in third. Maybe he didn't quite have as good a time of traffic as Philip Russler does. He's lost a few tenths after closing up for a few laps. So I think it's a bit of the traffic accordion effect in full view, really.
First lap still goes to David Sobrero with a 37.1. But we have another driver in 37s, and that is Russler, right?
Yeah, Russler did a 37.87, so 7 tenths back, but still in the 37s, so got to give him props for that.
Dominic Lala also right back into attack range here. But in the Motordrome, not really able to get past. We have seen him move into the Motordrome this year in Motorsports and GT3, but not likely to happen with 7 minutes left on the clock.
No, he's still got a little bit of a gap to close up before he starts seriously thinking about an overtaking move. Gap's about half a second between these two, and no matter how mighty you are on the brakes, you are not making that up into a braking zone. Well, not on staying on the track afterwards.
Also still have 16 cars on track, only 2 DNFs, and yeah, after some of the more turbulent fights, let's say, in this race, this is quite nice to see that they're still going. We had, I think, 5 cars in the pit lane.
Yeah, one guy got a drive-through right at the start of the race for race procedure, so he pitted pretty quickly and got that out of the way.
Seems like we are having a small technical issue here. But yeah, I mean, to keep you posted on what you said. In general, pretty much a good going for most people in this race. David Sobrero.
There were a couple of people going into the pits earlier on, but they managed to get that cleared pretty quickly and back into the race and doing fine. Obviously, Sobrero has been giving us a bit of an esports masterclass as far as pace is concerned. Got a fairly decent lead on top of Russler, who being our first console driver and in second place, really showing some of the PC players up there. Kimi Hopler has been trying his best to keep up with him, but the gap has slowly grown as the race has gone on, and seems to have pretty much stabilized at about 3 seconds now. Kimi having his own problems with Enrico Breuninger behind him, who I think after a bit of a weak start for Enrico Breuninger managed to make his way through the field. Perhaps helped a little bit by the continued duel between Zahir and Ladler.
Yeah, I mean, the fighting really has defined this race, right? We had the fighting between Hewitt and one of the Porsches, Handrich. So you had that going basically. And that pretty much decided who will be in the front group. I think Hewitt would have been able to really fight for it. But yeah, just not quite able in this case to do it. So we are just waiting for the cars to come across the finish line essentially. In just a moment's time.
Sorry out there about losing the visuals right now. We are trying to get them back. Hopefully we can do so.
I think we will be able to see David Sorrell coming across the line to finish this race as the race victor. So there we have him. David Sorrell, pretty much flawless execution from start to finish. At the start it may have looked like he got a bit of pressure from the BMW behind, but it was pretty much his race to lose, coming through the final turn.
Yeah, for sure. It's, we kind of expected it with him being on the grid. You can never quite tell, and I think that he definitely didn't get it all completely his own way, but he managed to do a fairly flawless victory in the end.
For Philip Russell, I think it was the best opening race he could have had. Very, very good result here for him in P2. Kimi Hapler, in the end, was able to defend from Enrico Breuninger.
Yeah, Russell can definitely hold his head up. There's no shame in coming second to Sabreria. So, a fantastic debut race in the RCL from him.
And Handrich, I think he may have had the most actionable race in the end, but yeah, I think he can be happy with 7th. And Mark Hewitt, even with all his troubles in this race, still coming home in 8th to secure some points. Won't be enough to keep the championship lead, to what I can. That might actually be just enough because he has regained a lot of points. But
yeah, he did a fairly good comeback drive after that incident. Dropped him pretty much to the back of the field. He really kind of stuck to it. Just got his head down, did the laps, overtook people when he could, and managed to do a fairly good comeback drive.
Very much so indeed. So yeah, that was our top 10. We will get you the updated standings in just a moment's time. But I mean, it was a very different race, but I think it was still very, very interesting to see. Very different to last time.
It was a very different race to last time we came here to Hockenheim for the RCL, but it was a good race, but in a different way, which it's always good to see. The races don't have to be just one way for them to be good. They can be exciting and have plenty of action. Doesn't necessarily have to be for first place.
Very much so indeed. We will have to validate the results later. due to the other splits. Of course, we had 2 more splits driving. But we can still give you the provisional standings after this race. And those you can see right now on screen. So McKeith is indeed still leading the championship by 5 points over Dominic Lala. Because if Dominic Lala would have gone past, or if McKeith, he really came back from quite a way down. So yeah, very good effort there by him. David Sorero jumping up into 3rd, Philip Rosler up into 4th, so very good opening races for those two. Kimi Harplan 7th with his result, Robin Blanco up into P6. He of course raced at Spa, so even the result today, which maybe wasn't what he aimed for, still carrying a bit. Same for Cesco Monuera. Enrico Bräuninger with his race today up into P10, Alizar into P11. So I think there can be a bunch of happy people after this race, right?
Yeah, I think so. If not particularly, maybe some people not happy with the final result, but I think they can be happy that they had a good time and a good race, and not a wasted afternoon.
Very much so, indeed. Next time, in 2 weeks, no, not in 2 weeks. Yes, in 2 weeks. I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong date. In 2 weeks, we will go to Jeddah, and I'm looking forward to Jeddah because the last few times we went to Jeddah, it was very full of action. It was certainly quite unpredictable.
Yeah, I continue to be impressed with how good Jeddah is as a GT3 track. I've got to admit I was skeptical about it, but it's a really good racing track for GT3s, and it always seems to deliver a fairly fun, action-packed race.
Yeah, and after that, bit of a winter break before we resume in January at Fuji. But of course, in the meantime, there will be the, if I would have the correct graphic in here, let's go with this one. We have the RENNSPORT Nordschleife League next week with the BMW M2, and on the 20th with the GT3X, so that is also going on. And the first Nordschleife race was certainly interesting. So with the different classes, M2 always delivering, GT3X a bit of a wild card. Could be a very interesting way to lead up to Christmas.
It's a very, very different car class to the M2, that's for sure. So that's going to be 2 very different races on one racetrack, I think.
But yeah, I mean, with all that said, I guess this is it for this evening. Next week with the BMW M2. Do you have any final words, anything you want to tell the viewers?
I don't think so, no. If you want to join in on the races, you could just, for any of our community races, either LSCL, RNL, the community events, just go on to multiplayer in-game and find one of the servers and join in.
Indeed, if you want to have any further information on any ongoing race, join the Discord. There's a channel called Contest Schedule. You can see league races and the weekly races there. And for next week, we also have some surprises again. You have seen it with Hoki and Kaya before. This time we have 2 different people to make the schedule just that bit more interesting than it usually is. So keep tuned for that. Keep an eye on the socials. And until then, have a great time and goodbye.
Goodbye.